Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Now, there's been quite a lot of talk over the last week or so, ever since the Tyson Fury-Dillian Whyte fight, which is what next for Dillian Whyte? It's a question that I've had countless times, and I know many of you have been debating here on YouTube, plus all across social media and what have you. So I thought I'd just do this video to give you my thoughts on what Dillian Whyte should do next. Now, ultimately, for those of you who say, oh, he should just retire, he's no good, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. You can hate on him all you like, okay? But the fact is that he ain't going to retire, okay? So you need to get over that point. He's not going to retire. Was it a great fight against Tyson Fury? No. Was he supposed to beat Tyson Fury? No, of course he wasn't supposed to beat Tyson Fury. Nobody is supposed to beat Tyson Fury, okay? So really what you're doing is you're taking away credit from Tyson Fury. Maybe Dillian Whyte didn't perform too great because of Tyson Fury. That's one way of looking at it. But ultimately, if you still want to say, well, he should retire, what you don't want to see him fight a Deontay Wilder, a Andy Ruiz Jr., a Joe Joyce, a Filip Hrgović, a Tony Yoka, these kind of guys. You don't want to see him fight any of these guys, no? Come on, I'm sure you do, even if you don't like him, okay? But Dillian is not going to retire. He's already stated that, and I fully expected him not to retire. I mean, why would he? It's not like he's pushing on in years. He didn't have a vast amateur career and all that kind of thing. So he has been taking fights, risky fights, throughout his professional career. That's where he's been learning. And yes, finally he got his WBC World Heavyweight title fight. Finally, after three and a half years, X amount of 1,000 days, he even had to take him to court to get his WBC World Heavyweight title fight. So if I was Dillian Whyte, I certainly would not be looking to go down the WBC route. Would not be, okay? So what would you do in Dillian Whyte's situation? Okay, he's still got that name, he's still got that brand. He's given us countless classic fights, some of them fight of the year contenders, all that kind of stuff. So if you're Dillian Whyte, where would you want to go? Well, firstly, he's going to want a world title shot again, against whomever it's going to be, okay? He's also going to want big fights and good money, okay? That's what he's going to be. He's not going to take some journeyman and all that kind of stuff. That's not something that Dillian Whyte has ever really done, okay? He ain't going to do that. He's going to keep on pushing it, okay, to a point where people will go, ooh, I don't know if he can win that fight. That's what Dillian Whyte has been doing for a long time. But options for him, obviously he wants to get into the world title mix. Well, the options for him would be a Daniel Dubois and Trevor Bryan potential winner. He could look at that one. He could look at Filip Hrgović and Zhilei Zhang. He could look at that one, IBF mandatory. Or he could look at the winner of Joe Joyce and Josie Parker for the WBO mandatory position. So if Dillian Whyte wants to get a world title shot, he ain't going to get it voluntary. Of course not, because there isn't going to be scope for it, because the winner of Joshua Usyk, they're going to have their backfill of mandatory obligations. So with Joshua and Usyk, when that fight's going to happen, who knows? I don't know why we're still waiting for official confirmation of that one. Hopefully today, right? That'd be great. But we're led to believe at some point in July, is it end of July, July 23rd or whatever the date was. So not too far away, but the winner of that up next will be the WBA mandatory position. Then it will be the IBF, then will be the WBO. Okay, so we'll discuss that a little bit more in detail as this video goes along. Now, ultimately, if you're Dillian Whyte, would you look at, say, the WBA? Do you want to get straight back in there? Maybe fight the winner of Daniel Dubois and Trevor Bryan? In which case, he may have to have a fight on a Frank Warren show, and then maybe fight the winner of that one. I say winner, I'm fully expecting Daniel Dubois to destroy Trevor Bryan. Hey, heavyweight boxing, you never know. Of course not. Never write anybody off. But that's one route he could go down, because while the WBA have not called their mandatory yet, I believe the winner of Trevor Bryan and Daniel Dubois will be called to fight the winner of Joshua Usyk, and that will probably be next. Because WBA are next. They don't currently have a mandatory position, and they have talked about consolidating the regular title and the super title. Okay, so I would fully expect that one So maybe Dillian Whyte could maybe sneak in there. But that's probably pushing it a little bit, as they are up next. Is Frank Warren, if Dan Dubois defeats Trevor Bryan, which we all expect him fully to do, is he going to go, okay then, Dillian Whyte, Dan Dubois, you guys fight? No, of course not. Of course not. He's going to let Dan Dubois sit there until it's called. So the other option to look at, which would then be up next, which would probably give Dillian a little bit more time as well, would be maybe fight the winner of Filip Hrgović and Zhilei Zhang. Now, they were supposed to fight this weekend for the vacant IBF mandatory position. Unfortunately for Filip Hrgović, his father passed away last month, and he hasn't really been training, as in his mind hasn't really been on it. Okay, so they've decided to pull him out of that fight against Zhilei Zhang this weekend. That fight will be rescheduled. So that will give Dillian a little bit more time to maybe even have a comeback fight, and then maybe fight the winner of Hrgović and Zhang, and maybe jump in and replace for the IBF mandatory position. Of course, if he can beat the winner of that fight. In which case, his next fight will probably be on a Eddie Hearn show. Okay, get a comeback fight, then go fight the winner. Okay, because obviously the IBF mandatory isn't going to be called till the WBA is completed. Or he can wait a little bit longer, maybe fight the winner of Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker. Again, that's for the WBO mandatory position. Joe Joyce is currently the WBO mandatory, but he's putting it on the line against Joseph Parker. So if Parker beats him, he then becomes WBO mandatory. But as I said, that's not going to be called for quite some time, because the WBO, their mandatory position has only just been completed with Alexander Usyk. He was a WBO mandatory. So, of course, then it goes back round again to the WBA, IBF, then WBO. So WBO is not going to be called for quite some time. But there again, Frank Warren has a very good relationship with WBO. We don't need to go into that one, but he does. Maybe he can get them to push it forward a little bit. So there are options there for Dillian Whyte. So where does he go? Does he go with Frank Warren? Maybe look at the winner of Joyce and Parker? Does he go and continue with Eddie Hearn? Look at the winner of Filip Hrgović and Zhilei Zhang. Where does he go? Now, you could look at it and say, well, Frank Warren, Dillian Whyte don't really have a great relationship. Apparently, they sorted everything out on the week leading up to the Tyson Fury fight, and they parted on good terms. So maybe something could be worked out there. With Eddie Hearn, of course, he's been on Eddie Hearn shows for quite some time. He's never had a contract with Matchroom. It's always been a fight-by-fight basis. But in the reality of it, Eddie Hearn never got him that world title shot. He never did. He kept throwing him into fights that were kind of meaningless outside the money. Of course, he earned good money in it and that. Of course he did. But they weren't getting him the world title shots. Eddie Hearn just couldn't swing it for him with the WBC. People would jump in ahead of him. So you could look at that one and say, well, maybe Eddie Hearn isn't going to get him the world title shot. There's that way of looking at it. Or maybe he can just go, you know what? I know the platform Sky Sports. So I could sign up with Ben Shalom and Boxer, fight on Sky Sports, and he would be the biggest name on Sky Sports. Would he not? He would be the face of Sky Sports. That way, he didn't have to be second fiddle, shall we say, to Anthony Joshua as far as Matchroom has been concerned, which he has been for quite some time. Again, listen, there's loads of things going on in boxing at the minute, obviously with this whole Daniel Kinahan situation. MTK Global have now closed their doors, and who knows what's going to be happening with anybody. Are people going to be investigated, all that kind of stuff. At least going with Boxer, they have no history with Daniel Kinahan or anything like that. In fact, one of the reasons why Boxer was signed up by Sky Sports, and I know this for a fact, was because they don't have history with that kind of situation. Okay, they want to stay clear of it. They made this decision quite some time ago. Okay, but that said, what is Dillian Whyte going to do next? Well, we'll really have to wait and see. But I would imagine he'd probably look at the winner of Filip Hrgović and Zhilei Zhang. That's probably the one he's probably going to look at. But there again, I suppose they're all appealing offers for him. In the meantime, maybe he could continue with the WBC route. Personally, I wouldn't have thought so, especially how they've treated him over like the last few years. Why continue with them? But in which case, fight a Andy Ruiz Jr., fight a Deontay Wilder. Why not? Still plenty of big fights out there for him. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.